This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. It was 2 weeks ago today that we saw a political assassination in Utah that tore the heart out of much of this country. This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences. Look, in America, we disagree, that's fine, that's the democratic process, but your political opponents are not Nazis. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other, without attacking. Stop. This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. It was 2 weeks ago today that we saw a political assassination in Utah that tore the heart out of much of this country. This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences. Look, in America, we disagree, that's fine, that's the democratic process, but your political opponents are not Nazis. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other, without attacking each other, and I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of law enforcement. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of ICE and CBP and everyone who puts their lives on the line to keep us safe. The divisive rhetoric tragically has real consequences. I hope that every one of us will pray, number one, for the safety of law enforcement that are risking their lives to keep us safe. Number two, across the political aisle, I don't know the details.
If you live in Florida and have a good driving record, you're being scammed by Big Auto Insurance. Listen up. I don't care if you think you have good insurance rates. The truth is you don't. For those who don't know, my name is Jimmy Williams, and I was a senior executive at one of the biggest insurance companies. I got good news and bad news for my Florida family. The bad news, your car insurance company is stealing at least.
Mr. Patel, I want to start off where we left off last time. I asked you whether you had any knowledge or discussions about removing FBI officials and installing political personnel before you were confirmed to that position. And I wonder, did you then understand or have conversations with the White House about the intentions to do so?
Before I was confirmed?
Yes, sir.
Did I have discussions with the White House to remove FBI personnel?
Yes.
No.
So you're saying that you had no discussions with the White House before you were in the position about the removal of any personnel from the agency?
As I was preparing for my confirmation hearing, I had numerous discussions involving the type of people that would be employed, and that those that were failing to meet the mark at the FBI would no longer be employed if I were confirmed.
And I'm assuming that mark had to do with loyalty to the Trump administration.
No, you're wrong.
Okay. I'd like to revisit another subject from that hearing. Did you testify, excuse me, you did testify before the grand jury that President Trump had declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Is that correct?
I don't have the grand jury transcript. That's why I released it. Whatever it says is the best evidence.
You know, that's what you said to Senator Whitehouse, that your grand jury testimony was publicly released. It has not been. In fact, in July, a court denied a news outlet's bid to get that transcript. But the court said quite clearly that you are free to discuss your grand jury testimony. So I ask you again, did you testify before the grand jury that President Trump declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified document case?
And that is why I took your invitation to work with the department and the court to have that transcript released. And the transcript is the best evidence of what I said then.
So you're saying right now this committee can have access to what you said before the grand jury?
To whatever was released. Under my understanding, Senator, that the Department of Justice
You and I
released...
both understand the law. Let me finish. I understand under Rule 6 of the Federal Rules of Procedure, a grand jury witness, in this case you, is not barred from sharing their grand jury testimony. This is an oversight hearing. This is germane to your integrity and credibility. You know right now whether or not you testified that President Trump declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Why are you refusing to answer that simple yes or no question right now?
Because the premise of your question is inaccurate, and
There is no premise to my question, but trying to get to an order of what is truth or not.
How do you How do you know what was asked in the grand jury if you weren't there?
Mr. Purcell, this is a mockery you're making of this hearing and simple questions.
It's a simple question. If you have
Mr.
a transcript,
during
you can
your
read the question,
nomination,
but you don't have it.
You promised that, quote, all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. When I asked you, are you aware of any plans or discussions to punish in any way, including termination, FBI agents or personnel associated with the Trump administration, you explicitly said under oath that you were not aware of any plans to punish FBI agents associated with criminal investigations of Donald Trump. I don't believe you were truthful. Firing FBI employees based solely on the cases that they are investigating, their case assignments, is illegal, and you know that. A new lawsuit that's been discussed numerous times, filed by 3 FBI officials, alleges that you carried out Donald Trump's campaign of retribution, in quotes, against FBI employees for, quote, failure to demonstrate sufficient political loyalty. One of those plaintiffs has been discussed today, Brian Driscoll. Now, we know 20 years of distinguished service to the FBI before you terminated him. Special agent in charge of FBI's Newark field office, where he operated with distinction. Medal of Valor winner, Shield of Bravery awards. He's a patriot. You terminated Driscoll via a letter dated October 8th, 2025, and in that letter you said that you were firing him pursuant to Article 2 of the Constitution. Well, you're not the President of the United States, and so I'm wondering under what authority you were allowed to terminate him.
That matter is under litigation, and I'm not able to discuss it.
Okay, well, discuss this. Did you have discussions with Stephen Miller about firing this particular person or about his continuance in the FBI?
Not that I recall.
How often do you speak to Stephen Miller?
Frequently on our Homeland Security task forces.
You frequently talk with Stephen Miller about subjects other than Homeland Security task force issues, correct?
I frequently talk to Mr. Miller about Homeland Security task forces.
Has Stephen Miller ever given you his opinions on how to run your agency?
Mr. Miller's interagency operations are invaluable to the FBI. That's what we talk about.
So you frequently discuss your job and your responsibilities with Stephen Miller and Pam Bondi, I imagine, as well.
Absolutely. She's the Attorney General.
Understood. Okay. Donald Trump promised to make us all safer. You have pushed out senior FBI agents with decades of knowledge and experience. In fact, this is the first time in FBI history that neither the director nor the deputy director have any experience with the FBI. You've shifted the agency's priorities primarily to pursuing Donald Trump's immigration enforcement agenda. According to ICE data, the Cato Institute, which is a conservative think tank, found that 20% of all agents have been diverted from their work to assist ICE immigration enforcement. 20%. Part of this operation is the work of mass law enforcement to not tarnish the integrity
know where to start. So I'm just going to make sure that we start off with a few facts. So I will agree that I definitely take issue with a number of decisions that Donald Trump makes, especially when it comes to the people that he decides to appoint to very important positions, including this one, because I did have to make sure that I wasn't going crazy. But when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining, yet we are supposed to believe that
That's
you are
false.
the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question. Now, what I want to go
false.
to pointed out that you are already targeting career officials so that you could direct the community as they're worshiping in their churches.
The time of the gentlelady has expired. If the gentleman would like to respond to any of that. Well, I mean, I'll respond. Kash Patel, as I said when I introduced him, public defender, former prosecutor, top staffer on the House Intelligence Committee, Deputy Director of National Intelligence with the National Security Council, Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense, and FBI Director. I think that's a pretty good resume for the guy who's now running the top law enforcement agency in our country. And we've seen all the stats that he's given to the committee on how much better they're doing at getting the bad guys than the previous guy was doing. With that, I recognize the gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I think you're witnessing some auditions, clickbait auditions for the Academy Award for my Democratic colleagues. We'll see how they fare as they're on MSNBC later on today. But do you care, before I launch into my line of questioning, to respond to Ms. Crockett from Texas on that very elaborate and theatric display?
Here's what I've learned in my government service. I don't give a damn what they say about me as long as I'm succeeding in the mission. We're succeeding in the mission because the men and women of the
It makes no difference whether our colleagues on the, across the chamber speak for 25 minutes or 25 hours. They can't change the truth. And today was about performance for some of them. But today for us is about results. Results that improve the lives of Americans, regardless of their race, religion, color, or creed. It does not matter. I tell you what, Ronald Reagan used to remind us you can always trust the American people, and we do trust the American people, and they can discern the difference. What they saw on display here today is that Democrats deliver performances and Republicans deliver results. Today, my friends, we are ready now. We are going to deliver what we were sent here to do, and every American will benefit from it. In 1793, just steps from where we stand today, President George Washington laid the first cornerstone of the United States Capitol. Over 50 years later, on July 4th again, members of this body gathered once again to lay a second cornerstone. Once more on July 4th, at the height of the Cold War, Congress laid a third cornerstone. And this week, with this vote today, on our nation's birthday being tomorrow, we lay a fourth. With this bill, we can vote as stewards of that great legacy that we have inherited in this extraordinary nation that we are blessed to live in. We can lay another sturdy foundation for the future of this country, a future where working Americans can feel relief, where government can finally start living within its means again, and where the United States is safer, stronger, and more prosperous than ever before. That's right. Now, I'm going to say this as they mock America and mock everything and mock the bill. We'll see how the people feel about that.
Yeah.
So listen, seriously, as friends and colleagues, really, across the aisle, what we celebrate tomorrow is the nation's birthday. Let's put the politics aside for a minute, and let's reflect on our blessings. No kidding, really. Tomorrow is the 249th birthday of our nation, and that's right.
USA! 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 USA!
I mean this sincerely. I thank my colleagues for standing. We all should be united in that. We are. We have squabbles, we have partisan debates and all of this, but at the end of the day, we're all Americans, man. And we gotta believe that. We gotta know it. We gotta recognize that we live in the greatest nation in the history of the world. It's not even close. My friends and colleagues, we are so blessed. We should not take it for granted. We live in the most free, the most successful, the most powerful, the most benevolent nation that has ever been on the face of the earth. And there's a reason for that. The reason that we are the greatest nation is because we were built on the ultimate foundation. And the bold declaration that my friend Hakeem Jeffries articulated earlier is true. We unite under that. The bold declaration that we do hold these truths to be self-evident. What is a self-evident truth? It's something that's obvious. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. It does not say born equal, it says created equal. And that it is our Creator, yes. It is our Creator that gives us our rights. See, the powerful thing about that is we're the first nation in the history of the world that acknowledged that our rights do not derive from government. They come from God Himself. You see those words up there, that motto, it says, "In God we trust," right above the speaker's rostrum. You know, a previous Congress put that there in the early 60s in the height of the Cold War. There's a little visitor's guide that people get when you do tours late at night. You've probably seen your constituents and visitors and friends get the guide. If you turn, I think it's about to page 21. It explains why that's there. And it says, Congress voted to put that there as a rebuke to the Soviets' worldview at the height of the Cold War.
If you live in a Florida zip code and have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years, listen carefully. I was an insurance agent for 30 years, and what I'm about to tell you
All right, you talked about the big, beautiful bill. Perfect segue. This morning, President Trump will head to Capitol Hill to attend a House Republican conference meeting and urge them to unite and to pass this one big, beautiful bill.
So Peter Doocy's at the White House with more. Peter.
And something you don't usually see behind us on the North Lawn, the Beast is getting ready to take President Trump to do something that he rarely does. He's going to go to Capitol Hill with the full presidential package, the whole motorcade, the small army of Secret Service, a dozen or so aides, and he is going to lean on Republican holdouts to get them to yeses on this big, beautiful bill.
If we don't get it, that means the Democrats will have stopped us, and that means people will get a 68% tax increase, the largest in history. And if we do get it, we're going to have the largest tax decrease in history. And all my life, I've watched politicians screaming, "We will cut your taxes." This is the only group where they say, "We're going to raise your taxes," and they think they're going to win. There's something wrong with them.
Blue state Republicans want higher caps on state and local tax, or SALT, deductions. Speaker Johnson is saying we are continuing to work on it. It is not a final resolution yet, but I think we're getting very close. The White House is warning, meantime, that failure to pass the big, beautiful bill will be seen as a betrayal by the voting public.
The America First policies in this bill are the reason why Republicans currently have the majority in Congress right now. And that's why it's essential that every Republican in the House and the Senate unites behind President Trump and passes this popular and essential legislative package.
President Trump seems to just want to get it over with today. He is going to leave ahead of a 9 a.m. closed-door meeting on Capitol Hill. As the clock ticks towards this deadline that Republicans set for themselves to get the big, beautiful bill passed by Monday, that only gives them 6 more days. Back to you.
Hey, so Peter, let's say they get this done Memorial Day or a day or two after. The Senate takes it up right away, correct? And then their goal is July 4th?
Yes. And so this is a big part of the reason why President Trump signed so many executive orders when he first came into office, because it takes, even with Republicans in the Senate and Republicans in the House, it is taking forever to get anything done legislatively. And so, yes, Memorial Day would be the goal for that House if they can get there after President Trump's visit today. And then 4th of July-ish for the Senate. And then President Trump can sign it again if they get there. They've got enough holdouts that it might be a real problem. And this is a big part of the reason why they pulled Elise Stefanik's nomination to be the UN ambassador down, because they are so slim with their majority. They need each vote, including hers.
That's why they're smushing this all together, trying to use reconciliation so they don't have to worry about that 60-vote filibuster in the Senate, right?
Correct, yes.
Right.
Thanks, Peter.
Great job.
Well, I think, of course, this process is frustrating, but they're getting all of the president's promises in one bill. So we knew that it was going to be a little complicated because you got the border, you got taxes, you got everything.
Tax on overtime.
Exactly. So a lot of things are in here. But there's one thing that's just grinding my gears. And look, it would benefit me because I have to pay New York taxes. But I don't understand how the GOP conference, you have representatives from New York that want this SALT deduction. It's not fair to the other states.
You know what their argument is?
Their argument is that they
pay
get
more to the federal
Exactly.
government. And do you know that we're, the threshold is 400,000, or you're not going to get anything off unless it's 400,000. They want to give a 40,000. They want to. The policy would lift the 10,000 cap, with zero, to 30,000, subjected to higher deduction for new income restrictions on taxpayers who make 400,000. So if you make 400,000 or less, you can write it off. If you don't, you're not. So that is going to allow. That was a big cut. There was a pay for in 2017. Now that's virtually gone. So what are you going to do? It's going to add to the spending. So that's what Chip Roy and others are saying, that adds to the spending. Why are we leaving so much of the new Green Deal in? So here's where the rubber hits the road. And I'm not rationalizing it, but they say in New York, you got the Wind Project. So the Wind Project is supposed to be 100,000 jobs and supposed to power for 500,000 people. Let's get rid of it because it's the new Green Deal. But a lot of Republicans in New York say, wait a second, we need that for jobs. And you have people lobbying on that.
If you're an older person?
Is this the healthiest coffee order in the world? The reason butter is called butter is because of the butyric acid. The best part of butyrate is most people don't know that the lining of your colon, the cells that line your colon, 80% of their nourishment comes from butyrate. Most of us don't make enough butyrate because we don't feed these bacteria. Anybody wondering why 30-year-old people are getting colon cancer? You have to get butyrate production in your diet.
Eggs? If you're going to get eggs, these are the kind to get the pasture-raised eggs. Oatmeal? This is one of the worst things you can have for breakfast. Almost all oats in the United States test positive for Roundup, glyphosate, which is a major gut disruptor. Oats are one of the best ways to fatten you up that I've ever seen. Orange juice? This is poison in a carton. It's pure sugar. Avocados? Now, an avocado is mostly pure monounsaturated fat, like olive oil, and fiber, which your gut buddies love. Human studies show that eating one avocado a day will help you lose weight.
A study out of China took healthy volunteers and they put them on a 14-day water fast where they got nothing but water, with one exception. One group got 100 calories per day of prebiotic fiber. The folks who got the prebiotic fiber had no hunger, even with a 14-day water fast. Why? These guys were feeding their bacteria. The bacteria, in turn, sent GLP signals to the brain saying, hey, we're full. So one of the keys for weight loss is you want to feed bacteria. It's remarkable how much this works. A lot of my patients are just addicted to it.
A lot of people are surprised that most of our weight loss or gain is actually controlled by the bugs that live in our gut. And we now know from both animal studies and human studies that there are lean bacteria and there are obesogenic bacteria. One of the tricks is to give lean bacteria what they want to eat.
Avocados are really one of the best foods that you can eat. They're almost pure fat and fiber, and it's fiber that your gut buddies love. Tomatoes. Now, remember, tomatoes are not a vegetable. They are a fruit. And the scary thing about tomatoes is that the peel and the seeds have lectins.
no tax on Social Security. If you work in Vegas, if you work in a restaurant, no tax on overtime or on tips. It's advantageous for a lot of Americans.
Real quickly, as I was talking about that, I'm against the SALT deduction. One of the counter arguments that is also being made, to your point, Brian, is that they say that those districts are competitive for Republicans. And this is one thing that they could get that could keep that a Republican seat. So I do see both sides on it.
But the Medicaid is the thing. It's reform, not reduce. Reform to what its original mandate was for the children and the disabled. Obama expanded to the point where it's unaffordable, and the federal government's on the hook for 95% of it.
It's crazy.
That's what blew up the budget.
And on the left side of your screen, there he is, just entering the Capitol now. Let's see if he makes any remarks.
Well, it's not a question of holdouts. We have a tremendously unified party. I don't think we've ever had a party like this. There are some people that want a couple of things that maybe I don't like or that they're not going to get. But I think we're going to have tremendous, not luck, we have tremendous talent. This man has done an incredible job as Speaker. You know, we had a majority of 1. We were 1 heart attack away from losing the House, okay? Now we have 7. That's a big, because we won some elections, as you probably noticed, and we're going to win a lot of elections. We have an economy that's roaring. We took out $5.1 billion. If you take a look, $5.1 trillion with a T, not a B. $5.1 trillion out of the Middle East. They're investing more than that. It's going to be ultimately more than that. What, 180 wide-body Boeing aircraft. They're spending money at levels that nobody's ever seen. Usually a president goes for a trip and he loses money. In other words, he gives money. We went for a trip and we took out $5.1 trillion. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. And that's just the beginning. So I think we're a very unified party. The Senate's doing great. John Thune is doing fantastically. He's a great guy. And we're going to have a bill, the one big beautiful bill. I think it's going to be, it's the biggest bill ever passed, and we got to get it done. Tremendous tax cuts for people, tremendous incentives, tremendous regulation cuts, all these regulations that are so horrible. And now you found out and find out what happened, because Biden, look, it's a very sad thing what happened, but we're going to start looking into this whole thing with who signed this legislation. Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew. I said there's nobody that can want an open border. Nobody. And now I find out that it wasn't him. He auto-penned it. Who was operating the auto-pen? This is a very serious thing. We had a president that didn't sign anything. He auto-penned almost everything. He opened the borders of the United States of America. And I kept saying, who would do such a thing? Allowing criminals to pour in from all over the world, not just South America, all over the world. They came in from Africa, they came in from Asia, they came from the Congo. The prisons in the Congo in Africa, these are rough people. The prisons from the Congo are empty. You know where they are? They're in this country. Who would sign this? Nobody would sign it. No sane person would sign it. You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the auto-pen signed it. And they didn't want him, and they were disappointed in getting him because they wanted Bernie Sanders. And then after about 2 weeks, they said, wait a minute, this is a gift. He'll do anything. We're going to use the auto-pen. And they used the auto-pen and everything. He didn't approve this stuff because when Joe Biden was with it, he would never have approved it. You take a look. He would have never approved open borders. Go ahead, another one.
Are Republicans still grandstanding in your view?
Oh, yeah, sure. You have a couple that will grandstand, but I think even the grandstanders should. Look, the alternative is a 68% tax increase. And you can blame the Democrats for that and 1 or 2 grandstanders. We only have 1 or 2, but we have tremendous support. But you'll have a 68% tax increase, or you'll get a massive tax decrease. You'll get a tax cut, the likes of which we've never had before. This is bigger than any Ronald Reagan tax cut. It's even bigger than the tax cut that I gave, because as you know, that's being extended and increased. So this is the biggest tax cut in the history of our country. Or you'll get a 68% tax increase. And if that happens, I mean, what Republican could vote for that to happen? Because they wouldn't be a Republican much longer. They would be knocked out so fast. But we're going up to details. This is I'm a cheerleader for this party, and I'm a cheerleader for the country. Much horrible. And now you found out and find out what happened, because Biden, look, it's a very sad thing what happened, but I believe we're going to start looking into this whole thing with who signed this legislation. Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew. I said there's nobody that could want an open border. Nobody. And now I find out that it wasn't him. He auto-penned it. Who was operating the auto-pen? This is a very serious thing. We had a president that didn't sign anything. He auto-penned almost everything. He opened the borders of the United States of America. And I kept saying, who would do such a thing? Allowing criminals to pour in from all over the world, not just South America, all over the world. They came in from Africa, they came in from Asia, they came from the Congo. The prisons in the Congo in Africa, these are rough people. The prisons from the Congo are empty. You know where they are? They're in this country. Who would sign this? Nobody would sign it. No sane person would sign it. You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the auto-pen signed it. And they didn't want him, and they were disappointed in getting him because they wanted Bernie Sanders. And then after about 2 weeks, they said, wait a minute, this is a gift. He'll do anything. We're going to use the auto-pen. And they used the auto-pen and everything. He didn't approve this stuff because when Joe Biden was with it, he would never have approved it. You take a look. He would have never approved open borders. Go ahead, another one.
Are Republicans still grandstanding in your view?
Oh, yeah, sure. You have a couple that will grandstand, but I think even the grandstanders should. Look, the alternative is a 68% tax increase. And you can blame the Democrats for that and one or two grandstanders. We only have one or two, but we have tremendous support. But you'll have a 60